Welcome to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this podcast is your guide to start creating a lifestyle by design. From entrepreneurship, money and finance, tax optimization and residencies, and everything in between. This show highlights the nuances of a true global citizen lifestyle. Let's dive in. Today, I'm going to be discussing what you can expect when you are a Westerner and you are dating a Latin partner. Now, as a bit of background before I dive into not all, but some of the expectations that you could face, I do have to preface with the fact that I have been with my partner from Latin America, born and raised for over 3 years now. We have traveled the world together. We met when we were both living in Asia for many years and then we came back to Latin America. I myself am born and raised in a Western country, and he is born and raised in the very Latino culture of Mexico. So, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the biggest cultural differences that you can really expect if you have or will in the future have a Latin American partner. So let's dive into it and get into the dirt. So, of course, I have to state the obvious and say that there are going to be so many cultural differences. But if you are used to living abroad, if you live a very global citizen lifestyle that we talk about on this channel, then these differences will be manageable for you. While there were some rather stark differences, and I'll share a very funny example in 1 minute of what I mean to illustrate this, it is very much so still possible if you, especially if you have lived abroad for many years, you've integrated into one or multiple other cultures in the past, then it's a hurdle that may be interesting and somewhat difficult for you initially, but by no means is it a deal breaker. And of course, this very much so depends on the person that you are with as well. So, one obvious expectation that you can have that I think everyone knows when you are having a partner from a Latin culture is the family component and how important family is to them. Whether your partner is male or female, mine is male, but on either side of the spectrum, family is very important. And I found this really interesting because it is somewhat of a difference in Western culture. A great example of this is that every Sunday you can expect the family, maybe even every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, you can expect the entire family to come over for an asado, or you go over to a family member's backyard or apartment, and you all have a big get together, have a barbecue, something where the whole family is involved. And usually, especially if you're in Mexico, there will be some tequila or whatever the local liquor is that will be involved as well. Yes, on a Sunday. One funny cultural story was that when I first arrived to Mexico to meet my partner's family many years back, the family was over on Friday evening, and then they were over again on Saturday evening. And yes, I hadn't met them. My partner hadn't seen them in many years. And so it was nice to be able to see them for 2 evenings in a row. However, on the second evening, on the Saturday night, one of the aunts came up to us and said, "This was such a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow." And with no joking bone in my body, I said, "Tomorrow? Are you for real?" And she was for real. She was not joking. I was not joking. There were no jokes going on. They were going to be back for a third night in a row to have another meal and have some more drinks together. So, this is what you can expect when you are going to be dating a Latin partner. Again, whether male or female, it's very much so integrated into the culture of Latin America to be with your family. And of course, I'm not saying that this is not in the culture in the West, but it is to a slightly different degree that I really had to get used to. And I will note that this can be tricky if you enjoy time alone. Me specifically, I love my alone time every single day. I can happily spend multiple days alone and be very happy about it. So it is an adjustment and it is something that you can expect. If you're more extroverted, then this may be amazing for you. If you're more introverted and that alone time is very precious to you, then this will be an adjustment period that, of course, the family will most likely understand that it's a different culture, that you have priorities and different things to do, even though it is the weekend. But make sure that you are upfront about these expectations. Otherwise, it may come off offensive to them. What else can you expect from dating a Latin partner? Now, the language is one thing that really took me aback, especially in the beginning. Now I'm much more so used to it, but I don't just mean Spanish as a language. I mean Spanish being a very expressive language. So A phrase that you will hear very commonly if you are in a relationship with your partner is mi amor, which means my love. But in Canada, in the US, likely you're not calling your partner my love. It's very romantic. Everything is hermosa. Everything is beautiful. The flowers are absolutely beautiful. It's different language and it's very expressive compared to what we would say in English. And it was very funny because I had never heard things expressed this way. But this is true not only in Spanish. If you go over to China or to other cultures, you will hear how they start to think through their language and through the expressions that they use. Another one that you can expect, and this is a very big one throughout all of Latin America, is infidelity. Now, I'm not saying you can expect infidelity, but what I am saying is that in Latin America, infidelity is part of the culture and is much more prevalent than I had ever seen living in Canada, in the US, living in a Western culture. Again, this is not stereotypical to absolutely everyone, but it is a lot more common. And a lot of my friends, both male and female in Latin America, will say that they have firsthand experienced infidelity. And because they've experienced that, they almost come to expect it in a relationship, especially if their partner is also from Latin America. And so they expect a level of infidelity in a lot of relationships. And then, of course, this causes a lot of jealousy. So, if you are with a Latino partner, then you can absolutely expect, especially in the beginning, some level, some degree of jealousy. This is something a lot of my friends and acquaintances have also experienced with their Latin partner. And of course, this can all be eased with time, especially if you come from a different culture, from a Western culture, from an Asian culture, from a culture where infidelity is much less common. Then this is something that can be eased over time in terms of fears of infidelity, in terms of jealousy. But in the beginning of the relationship, this may be something that your partner is used to seeing or potentially has unfortunately experienced in the past. And so this is something that you need to keep in mind. Another point when we're talking about the family front is the very close relationship to their family, specifically a close relationship to their mother. So, what I have experienced, whether male or female, a lot of Latinos have a very close connection to both of their parents, but especially their mother. And I found this very interesting because I did find in Western culture, a lot of the time we are more independent. Of course, Western culture is more independent and individualistic, whereas Latin American culture is traditional. And I think it was very interesting to observe the relationship of how close many of the children are to their mother. They will be calling their moms multiple times per week. Again, a lot of the time, whether male or female, and they have a very close connection with their parents. And so this is nice, but it is definitely something that you can expect when you are going to be dating a Latino or in a relationship or even a marriage with a Latino. So the next point going off of that is marriage and kids and what you're really wanting for the future. This is a very serious topic. And of course, it's serious in all cultures, but as Latin America is a much more traditional culture. And I do see this changing in quite a few aspects, which is very interesting. But in most aspects, it is still a very traditional culture. And so, a lot of the time, if you say that you don't want to get married or don't want kids, while your partner may be on board with this, their family, if they have lived and worked and their whole life has played out in Latin America, this may be a new concept for them. Whether you don't want kids, you want to adopt and have children untraditionally, perhaps you don't want marriage, common law marriage will completely suffice for you. This will be a new concept for a lot of your partner's family members. It will be parents, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, all of the family. This will probably be a new concept that they are not used to quite yet. And so, again, while your partner's expectations may be more similar to yours, you do have to understand that their family has lived their entire lives in Latin America and are not quite open to these newer, more modern, let's say, ideas of marriage and family. So let's talk about punctuality. Now, this may be a stereotype, but it may be true in a lot of cases. Again, we're not generalizing here, but from what I have seen, a lot of Latinos are chronically late. Again, this is not the case with everyone. We work with many professionals on the ground in almost every single country in Latin America, and they are professional. They show up on time. But if we're talking about the general population, the general public, especially just everyday workers, then a lot of the time when they say they'll be there in 3 minutes, you'll probably be waiting around 23 minutes for them to show up. So, again, with all of this being said, it's important to note that you can absolutely get on the same page with your partner, but it's not something that you should really be expecting immediately within month one, two, three, or even 6 months. It has taken multiple years for my partner and I to be on the same page about a lot of these topics and to really fully understand each other. And part of understanding each other is knowing the culture and the family and the values that we both came. The last one that I just have to address here is the noise. So Latinos are quite noisy and everything is loud. They'll be talking at a normal level and it's loud. Not only is it loud, it's dramatic. Everything is dramatic. Everything is like a telenovela, even if they are simply just speaking to family members or friends. Another one that really gets me is the music, and specifically if you're dating a Mexican partner, but really a partner who enjoys music and banda in Latin America, you can expect a lot of trumpets. It's a lot of noise. For me, it's a lot. For my partner and his family, and a lot of other Latinos, they absolutely love this type of loud, fun music, to drink some tequila, to have an asado. So it's very much so ingrained in their culture and a cultural thing. However, I will say on that note, it is nice to go out, whether it be a restaurant or even simply just to walk your dog and to have mariachis around. Mariachis will follow you, will surround your table, and will sing, sometimes quieter if requested, music. So, of course, there are so many other topics that I could get into while dating a Latino partner, but I'm curious what you have experienced from dating either a male or female Latino partner and what that has looked like and some of the hurdles that you have personally experienced. You've just listened to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast. If anything from this episode resonated with you, I'd appreciate if you share this podcast on your socials. And of course, be sure to tag us at Work, Wealth, and Travel. And don't forget to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining us on this global citizen journey, and we'll see you in the next episode.